Okay, so they provide standard contracts and agreements which can be used for between these parties. Okay, so we can have the contracts which are done between client and consultant. Okay, and client consultant means it can be contractor as well. Okay, consultant contractor, because like the basically the contracts which are done directly between the client and the other party. Okay, the contracts which are done directly between the client and the other party. Then we have joint ventures. Okay, they are very becoming very important, very common with the mega projects we have. Something like a metro project, or like a project with their planning with the other causeway, with the King Hamad Railway and so on. Okay, so these sort of the big projects, okay, the big infrastructure projects. Okay, in all these projects, what is common is the cost is very high, right? The cost of doing work is very high, and the project is very big. So it needs a lot of people who are from different specializations. Okay, so think about the causeway project. If they build another causeway on which they will have a railway line, okay, so there are specialists required for structures. There are specialists required who do marine construction. There are specialists required who will do railway construction. Okay, and similarly, people who are consultants in railway lines and bridge consultants and so on. You get my point? Okay, so and there's so much money involved. So it cannot be like what we do in smaller projects. We hire a big consultant or a big contractor who will handle others. Okay, but in these projects, they are one contractor cannot handle everything. Okay, one organization cannot handle everything, because it's practically impossible for one organization to have all these specializations. So if they don't have them, they will ask for others, right, to join. Okay, now one way of joining others is through subcontracts. Okay, so you hire subcontractors. Okay, so you are in the middle, then you are getting the money from the client and you are handling the subcontractors. Okay, but it works when the others are doing something which is lower than you. They are at a lower level, so I can like talk to them like I am the client for them. Okay, but in these big projects, each and every part is so big and so important that each subcontractor itself is very important. Okay, so what they do then in that case, they merge with each other and they form a joint venture. A joint venture is like a temporary organization. Okay, so 2 and 3 organizations will merge together for the sake of the contract only. Okay, so they will come together, they will themselves, between themselves, they will decide you will do this, you will do this, and so on. When they go for the client and the contract with the client, they go as one organization. Okay, from the start. Okay, they are acting as one organization from the start. And obviously, they will share resources and they will allocate resources, not like the entire organization or all these 3 organizations will only work on this project, that's it. No. Okay, so organization A will say, okay, I can or you can use these facilities from my side. Organization B, these facilities from my side. The other parts of the organization are free for other projects. Okay, clear? Okay, so they are taking part from different organizations, forming one temporarily just to get the project, but that is done from the start. Okay, then we have subcontractor or subconsultant. So they are the main contractor, main consultant, he is hiring the others. Okay, he is doing the contract with the others. Okay, and then we have representatives, where the client himself cannot, either he doesn't have the expertise, okay, he doesn't know so much about construction, so he cannot handle the work himself, he cannot oversee or supervise, so he will ask someone to represent him. Okay, very often this job is unofficially taken by the consultant. or the architect. Okay, but the main job of the architect and consultant is designing. Okay, but then they add, okay, since you design and you are the expert, and I'm happy with your design, so when the construction happens, you go and check it as well. Okay, but in some cases you hire someone officially, so there's a contract between you and your representative. Yes.
So the representative is like the construction manager?
Yes, but from the client side, and he may go beyond construction as well. Okay, so he may oversee the consultants as well, okay, and the procurement, everything, or even the contracts which they have to do with the other parties. Okay, the FIDIC gives you guidelines and templates for each one of them. Yes.
Just one last question. In the joint venture, who chooses the contractors? Is there like a main contractor?
Contractors come together themselves.
Themselves?
Yeah. Okay. Like you guys do in the class. There's a project. I like him. I don't like him. Something like this. Okay. Because it is done prior to the tenders. The client or whoever the boss is doesn't have any say in it. Okay, but basically there is someone, okay, who has like so usually like joint ventures can be, there's one organization, like we had a joint venture, not we, like I saw a joint venture which was between a consultant in Pakistan and there was another consultant from UK. Okay, a project is happening in Pakistan. Okay, so who will initiate? Who will initiate the joint venture? Okay, the guy from the Pakistan, right? Because he has the first information about the project. Okay, so there is always someone who has the first information, the first glance at the project. Okay, and they start searching for other parties. Okay, so whichever contractor is more interested and has more first-hand information, they begin the process. Okay, but in the end, it's not a selection; it's mutual agreement that we will come together and work. Okay, and in some cases they come together, they bid for the contract, they don't get the contract, the joint venture is dissolved then and there. Okay, no questions asked, nothing happened. Okay, so what? Yeah, so these are different conditions which are, or you can say different additions of conditions of work, contracts for work, which are published by FIDIC. Okay, so for construction, civil engineering, okay, for subcontracts, for electrical, mechanical works, for design, build, and turnkey contracts. By the way, because they are mentioning it here, I mentioned joint venture as well. Okay, so joint venture, turnkey, design and build, these are all further types of contracts. We did not discuss them here. FIDIC obviously covers everything. Okay, we did not discuss them because they are not very common. Now you can imagine how many contracts and how many projects will require joint venture. Okay, so that's why. But FIDIC has all of them. Okay, so they code their publications in terms of colors. Okay, so you can see the different colors over there. By the way, the ASHTO has also this color coding in some aspects. Okay, for example, the book which they published for geometric design, they started color coding it green for no reason. Okay, so that's called the green book, and then they have the brown book or something. Okay, so this they came up with on their own. Okay, so the previous ones which I showed you, they are color coded into the different colors. Okay, and you can see the editions when they were published. They could be old, they may have a newer edition. Okay, so the red book which deals with construction contracts, so they are basically dealing with the contract which is design, build. Okay, so now in each one of them you will see the procedure how it is done. Okay, so design, bid, build is how the project is carried out. Okay, so I want to build my house. Okay, the first thing I will do is I'll go to a consultant so he can do what? They start with what? Design. Okay, he finishes the design is ready. The next step is what? Bid. Okay, so then I will start asking the contractors to submit their quotations. Okay, so it's a process. Okay, so design, bid, bid. But this process applies to which of these types? If you are going for design, bid, bid, the contract which I will do with the contractor, which of these types it could be?
Lump sum.
Lump sum or? You were saying something? Lump sum, right? Lump sum. More common is lump sum, okay? Unless the client has something left in the design, or he will say, oh, okay, I will see the cost in the end, okay? But basically these are the two basic types. Why? Because the employer is providing all the information, the client is providing all the information, and the contractor is only responsible for carrying out according to the plan, according to the design. Okay, so it is suitable for building projects and most of the civil works. Okay, the contractor role is just construction, not design, and risk is borne by the employer mainly. The contractor has little bit of risk because he is carrying out the job. So anything can happen on the site, okay? Heavy rain, snowfall, sandstorm, accidents, okay? So he is taking that practical risk, but the overall risk of the project is mainly with the client, okay? The design part, and the contractor is mainly dealing with the risk of the time management and cost management, okay? And resources as well. Commercial buildings like office buildings and so on. Okay? We are not talking about a state of the art. Okay, normal buildings, infrastructure projects, road construction and so on, normal type. Okay, the one which happens regularly. Okay, residential developments very common. Then they have the one which is dealing with design and build contracts. Okay, so there is, you can see there is, what is missing here from the last one? Bidding. Okay, so the contractor is responsible for both aspects now, the design as well as the construction. I'm hiring one guy who will take care of the entire project. Okay, so whatever you want to do, bidding or selection or whatever, will happen before design. Okay, will happen before design. So the contractor is taking the design responsibility as well, in addition to construction. So this is done where the client wants to carry out the project faster, because there is one organization which is doing it, right? Okay, so you give the entire thing to that organization, and they can handle their own resources. Okay, so they will say, okay, this type of project, we don't have the design ready, okay, but we know that for this project we will go for isolated footings, okay, or we will go for what they call a spread footing, that's it. So we can start with the groundwork from now. The design is not ready, we can start with the groundwork, okay, or we can start with the what they call the preliminary steps, bringing the resources. Okay, so this can happen here. Okay, you will get faster results in this case. So and the client does not want to hold anything to himself. Okay, so he obviously, the risk is also going to the contractor. The client doesn't want any part of it. Okay, what else? The typical uses are industrial plants, industrial, all of them are industrial basically. Okay, or you have any complex sort of developments. Okay, complex sort of developments, like you have a big residential project, the entire compound or something. Okay, then we have the turnkey. Okay, I forgot the full form of EPC. It was written somewhere in the slides. I forgot it. Is it there? I cannot see. Anyways. So turnkey is very similar to design build. Okay, where the contractor provides a complete ready to use facility or the system. Okay, so it's very close to design and build. Okay, so he is taking the responsibility for designing construction, right? This is common from the previous case. In addition to that, he will also make sure that the facility is working. Okay, so he will operationalize the facility, he will run it and maintain it for some time as well. Okay, so this is why they call it turnkey. The contractor will actually keep the project running after construction. Okay, so here the contractor is taking all the responsibility for everything till the running of the project. It is suitable for large projects. Okay, especially those which are done with external funding. Okay, so in many cases the government themselves do not have the funding for that project. So they want to build a new power plant, for example. So there are many countries in the world which do not have their own budget, enough budget to build a new power plant. Okay, so they will hire a contractor. They will say, okay, you do everything. Okay, you keep the facility running, and we'll get the money from UN or World Bank or something as a loan or something. Okay, or they tell the contractor, okay, you come, you build, you run it. During running, whatever money you get is yours. Okay, so you will make profit from the project in itself. So when you build the power plant, the money which the power we will take from the consumers for this power plant will go to you. Okay, so your profit will come from the project itself, not from the client. Got it? Okay, so this is like one of the examples. Other examples, as I said, external funding. Okay, so the input from the employer, from the client is very little here. Okay, the risk qualification obviously completely goes to the contract. Okay, I already gave you these examples. Okay, then we have the green book, which is for the short contracts, okay, which are very small, okay, like sort of a subcontracts. Okay, so they are very short, straightforward. You have to do this, I will pay you this much. Okay, you do the paint for this room and I will give you this much, something like this. Okay, so suitable for maintenance works. Okay, small repairs, building repairs and so on. Okay, and the contractor is responsible for the job and the client is responsible for the design and the specifications. Okay, but obviously the risk sharing is similar to the first type, but the amount is not the same. The level of the risk is not the same. We are talking about that the first type could be 100,000 BD, 200,000 BD. Here we are talking about 10, 20, 30,000 BD. Okay, small projects. Yeah, because the project is so small, so there are many times these type of contracts do not have all the details about the risk and everything. Okay, because what can go wrong? You spend maybe 500 BD more. Okay, fine. Okay, so it can be used for small projects like small buildings or something. Then we have integrated project delivery systems, okay, which is, they call it more recent, but I showed you the dates, the years. Okay, the more recent is also very old. Okay, but this is like the last one, last addition in the list. Okay, so the client and contractor work throughout the project together. From the start to end, they are working together. Okay. So they focus on the joint, it's like a joint venture between the client and the contractor. Okay, so they are behaving as one organization for the sake of the project. So, and they are working together from the idea, conception means the idea. From the idea till the end, they are working together, start to end. So they are used where the project is very complex, very complicated. So you do not, and the client wants to get involved. Okay, so he doesn't want a turnkey contract or a bid, design bid contract. Okay, he wants to get involved because there's so much at stake here. Okay, I give the example of the power plant. Okay, so one case is the client says, okay, you do everything and I will just tell you when the power plant is ready. Okay, here the client says no. Yeah, I want a power plant, but I want to see how you are doing it. Okay, because I'm very, let's say the client says I'm very conscious about environment. Okay, so because there are environmental issues, I cannot just let you do whatever you want. So I will get involved with you from start to end. Got it? Okay. So this is about how much the client wants to get involved. Okay, so they are sharing the risks together. Okay, it's like 50-50. And what else? Yeah, and the contract is involved, like I said, from start to end. It can be for infrastructure projects mainly. Okay, why we should look for FIDIC contracts or their guidelines? Why should we use them? Okay, they publish some books. Why should I use them? Okay, so you guys use some manuals, right? For design, right? Why?
Because it's a standard.
Because they're standard, right? Okay, if you don't use standard, then what happens? I don't want to follow the standards. I'm a free bird. Then
You may make mistakes.
you may make mistakes. Okay. You were saying something?
Everything will be designed much similar.
Yeah. Okay. So standardization is basically, so you have the same across the entire industry. Okay. This is why we do the standardization. Yes. Then we have less chances of mistakes as well. Okay, because we are following the same pattern every time. Okay, so there are more chances somebody will correct if you make a mistake. Okay, and there are less chances that you will make the mistake because you are following the same thing again and again. Okay, so standardization means that it is the same across the entire industry and less chance of errors and so on. Okay, and in this case, then the standardization is not across one country; it's across different countries. Okay, so even if the contracts are done between a party which is here and a party which is in some other country. For example, in Bahrain, the infrastructure projects, the road projects, are taken by, in some cases, there are international firms involved. Okay, for example, ACOM. ACOM is not GCC based. ACOM is not Bahrain based. They are coming from somewhere else. Okay. So standardization helps you coordinate with them easily, okay, because we are looking at the same thing now, okay. So and you are expecting the same thing from each other. So the terms of reference becomes same, okay. When you follow their guidelines, they try to come up with how the risks are shared between the two parties, between the different parties, okay. So we don't want to leave it ambiguous, unclear. Okay, so following their guidelines means you know from the start who is taking the risk and how much. When I showed you the previous slides, all these slides, you can see there is a risk allocation part in all of them. Okay, so yes, each party does not take the same amount of risk, but whatever they are taking, they know it from the start, and it is according to the type of contract they are going for. You cannot say that the contractor cannot say I will go for design build contract, but if something happens in the design, it's not my responsibility. Okay, I'm not responsible for mistakes in the design. You cannot say this. Okay, so these standards tell you from the start how much each party will bear from the risks. And once this is cleared, once this is cleared, then you also know how to settle your disputes and conflicts and fights. Okay, in the ring, right? You take boxing gloves and go to the ring, right? That will be fun, huh? Right or wrong? Okay, so you can keep this in mind, huh? When you you go in the field, you can have something like this in the contract. Okay, when we disagree on something, we'll get gloves and we'll start fighting each other. Huh? So, anyways, so there are two important parts here. When you have a dispute, when you have a conflict, okay, there are two important parts. First is whose responsibility was that, right? So this is already covered here. Okay, so you can go back to the guidelines and you can check whose responsibility is that. Okay. Second part is how it will be handled. So there is a conflict. Two parties are saying two different things. Okay. There are two guys, two parties. He is saying this and the other one is saying this. Okay. So how they will start, resolving their conflict? What they will do? Will they go to the court? Okay. Will they hire a third party to resolve their contract? Okay. Will they sit together? Are there any forms which they need to fill? And so on and so forth. So the FIDIC gives you who bears how much risk, and also gives you, if there is a dispute, if there is a conflict, what is the procedure to resolve this conflict. Okay. So this is the outcome, this is the result, that yes, in the end, contractor should bear the result or the client should bear the result. This is the result, but how would I get to that result? Okay. It's not like we will start arguing with each other, whoever is talking in the end will win. It's not like this. Okay, there's a procedure to be followed. Okay. What is the role of engineer when you are following this? Then you can make sure that your project and the guidelines are complying with the standard procedures. Okay. And the engineer can be the representative of the employer from the consultant or hired independently. He has to review the design documents, the variations, okay, and so on and so forth. He is the person who tries to resolve the conflicts between the other parties, between the different parties, okay, and he has to in the end certify the payments as well. Okay, so this is the role of engineer according to FIDIC guidelines. Okay, that he is involved in all these things. Okay. FIDIC contract also gives you how the progress payments are made. So there is a final payment and there are progress payments, right? Intermediate payments. Okay, payments you will be made during the project. Okay, and during the project, the payment should be made on the basis of what?
Work completion.
Huh?
Work completion.
Work completion, always. You did this much, I'll give you this much. Always. It could be according to time. It's a 6 months project. Okay, or 1 month project. I will give you according to time. Yes. Material usage. Yes, it could be according to that. Okay. So there are different ways in which you can distribute the payments. Okay. So those ways are given. To maintain financial transparency means what? That especially if it is according to material or work, something like this, the financial transparency is what the contractor should submit as an evidence to show the work is done. Okay, and when the client releases the payment, what is the evidence that the client has released the payment, has gone to the contractor? Okay, because we are talking about thousands of BDs maybe. Okay, large payments. Okay, so you cannot just come to the site and bring it from your pocket. If you can bring it, then good. If you have that much money in your pocket, good. Let us know. Okay, but okay, so financial transparency means the evidence and the methods by which this communication happens and how much flexibility you can have. And we talked about change orders, remember. Okay, if a change is required in the work from the client side or the contractor side, how they will initiate it, how they will decide about it. Okay, if the contractor wants to initiate a change order, then how should you do it? Is there a form? Okay, how should he justify that there's an extra work? Okay, should he hire a consultant to give witness that yeah, he is saying what he is saying is true? Okay, so what is the procedure and so on? And then it has the clauses for timely completion of the project. Okay, and it has the clauses if this much delay happens, then what can you do, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in a FIDIC contract we have these 5 elements. You have the general conditions. Okay, general applies to all types of contracts. They are general. Okay, labor laws and so on and so forth. Then you have particular conditions which are for each project itself. Okay, and then you have annexures which are basically containing design details, if applicable, obviously. So design is ready. Then you have the agreement, the clauses between the two parties. Okay, party A will do this, party B will do this. Okay, the basic clauses. And then you have, so the first 3 were information, general information, particular information, design and so on. This one is the agreement where you will sign. Okay, and then you have the appendices if applicable. Okay, so for example, general can be definitions. Okay, what do you mean by contractor, what do you mean by client, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then we have the, what was the other one, the project thing. So the staff and labor which are on the project, the materials you are using, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, we'll talk about it later on. Any questions?